So, a major theme for alienated grandparents, as we know, is grief and loss. Um, Kubler-Ross stages of grief, which most of us are probably somewhat familiar with, include denial after a loss, feeling numbness, disbelief in coming to terms with it, with a loss, anger, bargaining, which means saying if I could just do something differently, maybe this wouldn't have happened. Or if I'm a better person, maybe we can go back to the way it was before the loss. Also depression and acceptance, although acceptance is more debated these as of late because there are many instances where people don't get to acceptance. So uh, there are other people who have studied loss. One type of loss is called complicated grief, which is grief without closure. And grandparents describe this as everywhere I go, I'm always looking for my alienated grandchild, and it's has an aspect of trauma to it. Complicated grief does because it can cause uh, grandparents to be on a fight or flight response by having stress hormones throughout their body regularly, and there's no resolution to complicated grief in general. And there's lastly, ambiguous grief is thought to apply to alienated grandparents. This was studied by Pauline Boss, who who began by studying POWs and kidnap victims' families because it's not a normal grief response because you it can go on for years and the person may be present in the world but not present to you. So it's a very difficult type of grief as alienation is. So now we'll move to how first we'll start with women. How do women often grieve in situations? And women are generally more likely to express grief with others. They may seek out connections and accept help. They're more apt to talk about their grief. As women process and express their grief, they may reach out to social networks or create new ones. They may seek others who can understand their loss. Someone known well to families divided and family access is John Killinger and his wife Anne Catherine Killinger, who have been sadly alienated from their adult children for many years, but they have been profoundly involved and helpful to alienated parents and grandparents through their writings and presentations. But um, Catherine Killinger, who we lost 10 years ago, sadly, said something very wise. A son, this is in her book, which is called "A Son is a Son Until He Takes a Wife: How Toxic Daughters-in-Law Destroy Families." And she said, "I applaud the work of grandparent alienation support groups. Only other grandparents who are not allowed to spend time with their grandchildren have any conception of the unnatural stress that this places on our lives." So I think that's very powerful because Ann Killinger shared the fact that reaching out to others has helped her immensely, and I think it has with many grandparents, but it seems that women may be more apt to reach out that in that manner.